Writing an angel check is easy. Knowing why is the flex. Angel investing. Underused, misunderstood, explained badly. Angels Decoded, an educated and raw take. In cahoots with Play Money. So Elizabeth Yin says founder criteria haven't changed in the age of AI. You should still look for the same things in a founder, right? The same grit, the same adaptability, the same resourcefulness. I'm a founder building in this environment every day, and I think she's wrong.
It's an interesting call to make for someone, and for those of you at home who don't know Elizabeth Yin, she's got Hustle Fund. She's
sort of a big deal.
Yeah,
she's like
she
the
had
OG.
a big exit, originally an engineer and product person, and now early stage investor. And to make that assessment is interesting because what you're talking about there is that you're assuming that everything is running the same as it was. But my observation is we're actually seeing a whole new breed of founders entering the market and creating products that weren't possible before. So it feels like we're in this new territory that no one could define.
It's so interesting that there's a whole bunch of new founders coming in, creating new products. How sticky those products are, how real those products are, how non-fraudulent some of those revenue numbers are, is debatable. What I do agree with Elizabeth with is at the beginning stages, team is the most important. And she's not wrong that the same characteristics that were important before are still important now, in the ways to identify a great team. But there's extra required now, and the work has changed a bit with AI. And I'm saying this, from the perspective of a founder who's been in the market for 15 years, right? A third-time founder. It's different this time. What I need to do as a founder is different.
What a great topic. We're at episode number 11 of Angels Decoded. I'm fascinated to unpack this one because we're in a world where everything has shifted so dramatically, and anyone who is an expert and proven expert historically in the industry are making all kind of claims. And I would say that a lot of those are proving false right now because it's almost impossible to be a futurist in any way, shape, or form.
It's impossible to be a futurist, and it's really easy to be a hype person. There's amazing things AI will do, and at the same time, there's limits to it. And it's a super challenging time to be a founder because in addition to all the things you have to do, and your obsession about the customer and the market and everything else, you're adding a third shift, almost like a third shift around learning AI and what you should be doing for it and how you want to set up your team for success for it. And that was work that was never there before. And that work takes a new set of skills, a combination of open-mindedness and bravery, a combination of tinkering that's really different, and a combination of taste and truth and confidence. So, some of those were things you needed in the past, but the tinkering's the one that feels really net new.
Interesting. And I don't want to go too deep into this part, but I break up startups into 3 phases of that. Early stage growth hacking, mid stage is developing structure and process. Third stage is getting people who double down on all of that information and scale your business. But the way that I look at it now, that by nature of scale can happen from day one because what you can do is use AI platforms and build SOPs to be able to do what you're doing with force and have a team of AI staff members underneath you. So you're not just building the product, you're actually building all of the systems that allows you to then scale the product, which is a very different mindset.
You can scale certain processes faster. You have to figure out first what it is you want to scale. And that's maybe the harder part. Like, I've seen other teams, I've seen my team, automate some things. Have you automated the right things? It's a different story.
There's still an element of test and learn, even with automation, effectiveness, and insight and intelligence like we've never had before. You still have to be able to be savvy enough to have a hypothesis, test, learn, iterate on what you're doing. So to double down on what Elizabeth was saying, what are the key points do you think that she's missing within her statement there that angel investors should start to think about when they're being curious with founders at this stage of investing?
Yep. So for me, this harkens back. I'm a voracious reader of random things on the internet. And the most interesting thing I read this month was a study of 515 startups going through the same set of accelerator programs. And they split the group out, and part of the group, they exposed the team to, check this out, like the teams are all the same, sort of traction, competence level, technical skills. They sort of neutralized for all of that. Part of the group, they gave the team and worked through the team of case studies on how other companies were using AI successfully end to end in their operations. That's all they did. All the teams had the same tools, the same training, everything else. They reviewed those case studies with them. And what they saw is that cohort generated almost 2x the revenue on 40% of the funding over the time period they were doing the study. And it was so interesting to me because there was a few key takeaways there. The first was AI has not raised the floor. Shitty founders aren't going to become great. Great founders are going to stay great. And that's like to Elizabeth's point. Look for these characteristics. This makes great founders great. But it was the new thing. Didn't raise the floor, but it raised the ceiling. Somehow in there, getting your team the right information on AI and teaching them how to use it raised the ceiling. And all of a sudden, a great founder could become supercharged, right? You were like I had kids back in the day, Power Rangers, right? Like you were amazing. And it struck me so hard. Like this is a high stakes game. Everyone is going to keep moving up together incrementally. But if you hit it right, if you have those special skills as a founder and do the right things with your team, boom, you can blow it out of the park.
Fascinating. I just recorded an episode with a lady, Millie Tomati, who has a company, Generalists.
Oh my gosh, she gave all of us generalist voices. We're not useless. We're not unhireable.
100%. And the reason I raise that is that to be a founder today, and I want to look at a good founder versus a great founder in the world of AI,
Yeah.
you need to be a generalist because what you're doing is you're looking at all these verticals within your company to look at growth. And what you just described gives a perfect example of a team that are exposed to a series of SOPs that they need to plug in to their company. And by implementing and problem solving, they're able to create a 2x growth from a revenue perspective as well. So like, what's that separation between good and great from a founder?
I mean, from this study was, it's still thin. So they're like, all you got to do is expose them to that stuff. And I think that is not telling the full story underneath. Because what I know, having, been in the space for a long time, and what I see myself doing with the team, being a generalist might be my most important skill right now because I've got to tinker with the tools myself to understand what's possible and not possible, right? Because there's as much hype as there is reality right like now. Let's not sugarcoat it, right? AI doesn't magically make shit happen. It spews out more shit that can slow you down. So I find myself doing a ton of tinkering and then a ton of challenging and goal setting and leading by example, but obviously all within the context of my business, but it's a whole net new layer. I don't need to just be an expert on my customers anymore. I need to be a little bit of enough of an expert on AI and how it can apply across my org to set my teams up with the right hooks that they can run with it and build on top of it. And that's not easy. Right? Everyone isn't birthed AI native. It's an extra job on top of your day job.
The way that I would summarize that is that what may take you a year, 2 years to get in motion and actually build within your company is happening in weeks now, because to be able to compete at the same level as everybody else, you need to put these things in motion quickly and doing what you're doing, that tinkering and testing to see what's working, because you don't have that time frame. Because if you're not getting early traction, now you become redundant very quickly.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. It's actually, not to go off on a tangent, it's unrealistically aggressive right now because some things naturally take time to compound. Don't believe, someone's going to call me wrong for this, but AI can only help you find product market fit, not astronomically faster. Sometimes data needs to compound, learning needs to compound. So I always take that with a grain of salt, not to contradict.
And do you see a time in the future, call it end of this year, where what's happening now starts to normalize a little bit? And if you look back over time, there were markers by stage, by industry, that you would be able to look at a founder and a company and get a pretty good read on chance of success. Whereas now the the dashboard has completely changed. At what point do you think we'll start to see like some kind of standard system that founders are using where you're not assessing how they operate and how they grow and scale, and it goes a little bit back to what we were doing? Or do you think that won't settle down?
It will. I believe it will settle down. It's going to be a while because right now we still have tools changing literally multiple times a week. And we have hype outpacing what the tools can actually do in a lot of places. And we have a frothy market of comparison that is even outpacing the hype. I mean, there's been tear down places on those companies that got to 100 million in ARR in 6 months. What's really happening? Oh, they're arbitraging tokens, or they're taking contracted revenue 5 years out that's going to be canceled and never realized. Like there's funny business going on in the market now too. But I think we will get to the point that it stabilizes, and in that middle, and then I do think it reverts to exactly what Elizabeth said, the same characteristics that make a great founder make a great founder. But in this interim, there's an extra set of things I think early stage investors and particularly angels should be looking for. Is like, this founder going to be one of the ones that rises to the top in this new chaotic environment, or is it going to overwhelm and they're going to be left behind?
So the question that is asked typically in a very stereotyped way is, how are you using AI? What is the question that people should be asking to founders now? That extra layer you're talking about that Elizabeth didn't talk about. What are those things that you need to unpack?
Yep. Great question. So when I think about my business, I'm thinking about, I would ask a founder, what friction did AI remove for your team? What time wasting tasks has it taken off your plate? And what are you doing with that freed up time? Are you going deeper on doing the things or learning the things only you can do? I'd ask them, what are you doing now that was literally impossible before? Then you sort of see you see how they're using the tools, but you also see what lights them up. Are you taking on business or doing things you would have passed on before because they were too inefficient? And are those things actually generating revenue? Like, again, you're delving into how the founder uses the tools. And I think the question I would ask them all, because this is the way to cut through the BS, is what are you tinkering with right now that isn't working yet? Right? Because you got to cut through the bullshit and the noise. And as founders, we like to, I'll tell you the smiley version when we're like crying inside. Like, I know everyone's hyping Claude design this week, but guess what? I loaded it with the right prompts and the right things, and I studied what they were, and it produced me something that looked like a freaking Claude webpage. And I'm sorry, Alex Lieberman, I know it's super exciting. You loaded PostHog into Claude design, and you got your own wiki version back. But the wiki version you got back actually didn't look like PostHog. It looked like Claude design with your logo smacked in it. So I'm not sure why you're all jazzed up.
Fascinating. I love that. And I can say as a founder, I was crying just last weekend and I'm feeling much better today. And you know my personal journey. So tears are real. Okay. So to close, is there a takeaway that angels should consider to understand what we've just ran through today?
I would add a question when you're talking to a founder. Ask them how they are using AI and what's changed in their org and where, what it's allowed them to do differently and where it's not meeting their needs yet, because you're going to understand the founder not just as an owner of that business they're running, but as a tinkerer setting up their team for exponential returns. Just ask about it.
I love it because you're getting a peek behind the curtain at process, not just the product. And I feel like that is the separation today.
Absolutely agree. It's in your DNA it's in your day be a Millie type generalist, or it's not. And all of us founders need to have that generalist edge to us right now.
Beautiful. Cheryl Kellond, this has been such a fantastic look at what we're observing at with founders today. Going to wrap there. I'm Andy Walsh from Startups Decoded. Cheryl Kellond, Play Money. I love Play Money. Thanks for doing another fun conversation. Little hot take, always a favorite with the crowd.
Catch you next week. Bye.
Angels Decoded, a weekly podcast for people learning the craft. Angel investing made easy. Subscribe, then decide. Angels Decoded, in cahoots with Play Money.